Alright, what's going on everybody with the Z-Car community? So if you stumbled across this, you're probably having the same issues that I'm having, or similar ones where we just got this guy. This is an 83 Z28, or sorry, 280ZX. I keep thinking about the last car that I had to do this much work to. So it's a 1983 280ZX. When I purchased the car originally, the previous owner said they were having fuel issues. It wouldn't start, so they put in a new fuel pump, and it still wouldn't start. I'll kind of show you the fuel pump. It is a bit of a rat's nest under there. They didn't use the existing or the stock connectors for whatever reason. As you can see, the yellow wires there. And so, in the back, there was also some relatively fresh splicing into the fuel sender unit, which is just this bad boy right here. And then there's also, they also didn't, like I said, they didn't use the existing connector, which I thought was kind of strange, considering it's relatively easy to do, just to wire your pump using the old wires down at the bottom. So I thought maybe they had some wiring issues where they didn't think they had full voltage going to the pump. So then I came over here and opened up into the fuel relay, which is located on the passenger side just behind your battery. There's a small panel that sits right here where your EFI relay is connected. And this thing's getting a good strong click to it when I hit the ignition, but I haven't tested continuity to it. So I don't know if it's getting everything that it needs to. Excuse me. So yeah, so then what I did is I took that battery that you saw in the back and I hardwired it directly to the fuel pump while I was cranking this engine over to see if there was some sort of signal issue to the pump when to turn on. So I just had it run the entire time while I was cranking this over, and still didn't get any fuel, didn't get anything. And when it's cranking over real strong, and we are getting spark. I pulled all the plugs and held it up against the valve cover or the cam cover there to check and see if we were getting spark, and we got spark on all six plugs. So it's not a spark issue, and it's not an oxygen issue, because we got a nice, the airflow meter on that side is doing just fine. So yeah, I wasn't sure what we were dealing with here. The fuel pressure regulator was not leaking at the time, and still isn't, so I don't think it's a fuel pressure regulator. And I don't know if the cold start, which I believe is this unit here, if I remember correctly, it might even be this unit here, I can't actually remember. The cold start, I don't know if the cold start would stop it from firing, but it would turn over and it would crank really, really well, and then it would kind of sound like it wants to start, like it would almost catch, it would almost fire, but then it just wouldn't. It would just pop, as you're turning it over. So yeah, so that kind of led me to believe that it was the injectors. So I popped the fuel rail off. Now it's not really as much work as some of the other videos make it seem like it is, getting this fuel rail off. It's just, you got to take off quite a few pieces, and you got to make sure you're labeling everything. Now apparently I didn't know this until I was doing a little bit more research, and some of you all on YouTube here actually taught me this, was that these injectors, so this is a batch fire system. What that means is that every single one of these injectors fires at the same time. So it doesn't really matter if you have to label the injectors as you pull them off, but if you're working on any other sort of EFI system, electronic fuel injection system, from pre-1990, I would assume that you're probably going to be wanting to label these so that you put the right wire on the right injector, just like you would a spark plug. Yeah. So it's not, like I said, it's not incredibly difficult to get it out. There is some gentle persuasion that you have to do. And so what I've done is I've taken the injectors out already, and it didn't take long. Like I said, it's just maybe a little monotonous. And what I've done is you're not supposed to, you're really not supposed to add 12 volts to these systems, to these injectors. Apparently they are a 3 volt connector here, which is given to it by whatever relay it's going to get a signal from. And I learned, again, something else you learn on YouTube when you're looking at these cars. YouTube's invaluable sometimes when it comes to old cars. But so what I've done is I pulled all 6 and I've tested them. So like I said, I've taken my 12 volt DeWalt battery over here. Now this battery is not fully charged at the moment. So I kind of took a risk, and from what I can tell so far, it paid off. But what I've done is, let me see if I can do this one-handed, because I'm using my phone. What I've done is I've run a wire to the positive and the negative of the battery, and I'm just using a speaker wire, and I'm just touching it to the inside of the connector, like so. Might not be able to do this two-handed. Sorry guys, I didn't plan to do a video. Okay, so do you hear that? That's a good solid click. And that's what all 4 of these sound exactly like that. However, if we grab these ones here, which are currently just sitting in some solvent, and I'm just using brake clean, because that's all I got right now in the shed. The Z Shed. Yeah, there's a name. There's a name for a series, the Z Shed. Anyway, so when I connect these two, you hear that? There's no click. I'm not getting any action, except for like that small click you'll hear from the arcing. But this thing doesn't click, and neither does this guy here. So I don't know if 2 injectors not firing is enough to make the 2.8 EFI not fire because it's batch fire. Usually if you're having 1 or 2 injectors that are going, you'll still get at least some sort of, it'll run like a bag of shit, but it'll run. But if it's batch fire, I don't know if it will. So that's something I'm not too sure of. Yeah, so if you guys have any sort of, if you guys are experiencing anything like this at all, let me know in the comments, please, because I am curious to know if I'm doing all this work for nothing. Now, one thing to recognize with these injectors, guys, is if you're in Canada and you're trying to find these, like I am, so I'm in Alberta, Alberta, Canada, and I'm trying to find these guys. These are either $177 brand new from Napa, or $130 something remanufactured, which, you know, unless you're going for some sort of performance thing, doesn't really matter. But if I wanted to replace all 6 of these, which was the initial plan, to be honest, I would have been spending well over $800, $900 in all 6 injectors. So I'm kind of stoked that it's only 2. But again, that's you know, with shipping and handling, because I'm gonna have to order these from the States, because there's not a single supplier in Canada currently that has these that I can find anyway. So I'll have to order them in from the States, and that's gonna kind of hurt a little bit, because I'll have to pay duty and taxes, and I don't know what the tariffs are like now, but they might make things a little bit more expensive for us garage builders. But yeah. So if you guys, like I said, just down in the comments, let me know if I'm missing the mark here, if there's something I didn't check. I probably would have helped if I could show you guys a video of what it was doing before. I guess if this doesn't fix the problem, you'll know exactly what it was doing before. But I'm 50-50 right now. I'm optimistic that that we're gonna have getting done what we need here. Yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. I'm going to keep tinkering with this and see what's going on. I might try to get some of the random brackets off this thing. Now, I don't have my Haynes manual or anything like that. I'm just going off the internet. But something that I thought was absolutely, that kind of blew my mind, to be honest, is that I believe this is either a power steering or an air conditioning pump bracket, which is mounted to the head right through with these 3 bolts here. Now when I pull this bracket off, behind here there's actually a port directly into the head. And I can't for the life of me think about what that might be for. Unless it's for a turbo model and this is a Frankenstein block and engine, which, hey, anything's possible. But there was also a tensioner here that I pulled off that wasn't connected to anything. And then there's also a lone wolf pulley down there. See if I can focus in on that thing. There you go. That's the guy. That's not connected to nothing. So, don't really know where I'm at with this car. And that's one of the things with these old Zeds that you're going to find is that they're really popular when you can find them because they're a really cool JDM. And the Z car is pretty much probably one of the more historical cars, because if you know anything about the Z cars, you know the Fairlady Z, which was later named the 240, single-handedly revolutionized the sports car world in North America in the 60s and 70s. So thank you, Japan, for that. It's awesome. Alright guys, that's all I got right now. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Thanks guys. Bye.